Welcome to Popcorn History with the Freeborn County Historical Museum, Library, and Village. I'm Stephanie Kibler, the Executive Director at the museum, and joining me is Risha Lilienthal, Coordinator of Collections and Exhibits, and Reggie Bauer, Operations Manager here at Power 96. Today we are going to be talking racing and remedies. And this was a little harder to popcorn.
Yeah.
It was a little difficult. Freeborn County has a racing history that goes back into the 1850s.
Sure.
Maybe even earlier than that. I'm not quite sure, but for sure 1850s. And there's a lot of, what do you call it, folklore around the racing history.
Yeah, one of the first things I heard about when I came into town was that the county seat was determined by a racehorse.
Same. It's like some people just love to bring that up.
But there's no evidence of that.
Yeah, I think I remember in one of the past episodes you two debunked that for me.
Yeah. It's a kind of a fun little piece of story.
Wouldn't that be neat?
Yeah, wouldn't that be neat? Oh, there's a whole new segment. But one of our so George Ruble was
pretty prominent.
I guess. Would you say a forefather of the city of Albert Lake?
Yeah, I think so.
Owner of a sawmill. He I think has donated a piece of land that became part of there were several businessmen in that time frame that donated land that became part of downtown and park areas.
Okay.
So he was quite the prominent businessman here in town. And he was also the proud owner of Red Eye, which was a local racehorse.
Ooh.
And he spent a lot of time in Faribault and in St. Paul racing with Red Eye. And we talked a little bit at Cocktail History about Uncle John and his horse Tommy.
Yeah.
Who ended up challenging Ruble and his horse Red Eye.
Ooh.
Now, Red Eye was a thoroughbred racing horse. Beautiful racing horse. And Tommy was, we compared him to Eeyore.
Yeah.
They commented in this news article that he kind of walked with his head down and more of a saunter than a trot. So he was just kind of a
pretty chill.
Yeah, laid back horse.
Yeah.
But John's nephew took him out one day and decided to see if he could run, and he could run. So Ruble and Uncle John ended up with a $25 bet, and John showed up with no saddle on his horse and nobody to race the horse. So as the crowd talked, they kind of started making fun of him and laughing. And so he said something along the lines of, he's smart enough to run himself home. I'll just let him run. So he took the bridle off the horse and took him by the mane and led him up to the start line. And they sounded the bell, whatever they used to do. And the horses took off after Tommy had a couple of funky little jumps and kind of squirreled around a little bit at the start line. Guess who won the race?
Was it Tommy?
It was Tommy.
Wow.
Yeah, so Ruble kind of maybe took a little hit there, but...
and you're talking about the Red Eye is like this thoroughbred, and I'm imagining a horse with just like this huge, almost military horse with like red eyes. That's what I'm imagining. It's like this domineering horse, but that's just what I'm picturing because of its name.
Sure.
Interesting, huh? I don't think that's what it... I wonder where Red Eye came from, though. His father was Winnebago, and mother Rosa Vertner was the name of that horse. Yeah, Red Eye. Huh, I wonder where that came from. There's nothing that really says how he named his horse, which would be kind of fun to know.
Yeah.
I would have said maybe like a red-eye flight, but they didn't have airplanes back then.
I hadn't even thought about the red eye, but I hate the red eye. I'll never, if I can avoid it, ever take a red eye ever again. It takes me 2 days to recover from a red eye. I don't sleep on a plane. I have a hard time sleeping.
I usually don't, but I have the past couple of times.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just kind of, there's a lot of different stories about the horse racing throughout Freeborn County. George Ruble also had a mare named Sleepy Kate, who ran against George Gardner's mare, and Sleepy Kate was the winner in that race. let's see here. Oh, and Bay Lady, I guess, was the name of the other horse that Sleepy Kate beats. So it's, and then there's Sleepy Joe. That was H. Lester's bay horse, Sleepy Joe, of Missouri. So people came from all over, too, bringing the horses into racing. Right?
Wow.
Wait, were these horses that were after Red Eye?
I'm going to guess, 1860 was Sleepy Kate. Red Eye was around 1858.
Okay, so do you think that because Tommy was known for his kind of lackluster, like, chill demeanor, that he decided to make the other horse's name Sleepy so that they would...
Maybe.
Because...
Like mind gaming,
right.
racing,
like reverse psychology.
You'll never see it coming,
right? Maybe. Who knows?
All right. Well, I was hoping you were going to talk a little bit about the Derby, because that's why you wanted to do horse racing.
Well, we did the Derby for Cocktail History, and I did not touch on the Derby. I just did horse racing.
Because when we had talked about our pops, I was thinking about nursing, because it's National Nursing Week this week in May. And so you said, well, I'm going to challenge you to connect horse racing to nursing. I was like, oh, okay. So I was looking at the Kentucky Derby, and I connected nursing to horse racing, because there's a lot of independent contractors at the Kentucky Derby, and a lot of them are contracting outside of the country and are migrant workers. So they don't have health care here while they're here, and they're not here for too long a time period, and they're also unfamiliar with our healthcare and our system, and they don't get healthcare through their jobs by being a contractor. And so they are behind the stage at the Derby. A lot of them are mainly exercising, feeding, shampooing the horses, cleaning the stalls, lifting hay bales. They're doing a lot of, the labor work behind the scenes in the horse racing. And so, because a lot of these people, sometimes they would get hurt, or they just needed normal primary care, that people need throughout their life. And so the University of Louisville, their School of Nursing, set out in 2005 to meet the health needs of that population. And they partnered with a track-funded nonprofit organization to create the Kentucky Racing Health Services Center.
And they didn't do that till 2005.
No, yeah.
Because what year was this for the Derby? I mean, the Derby's been...
Since 1800s,
yes,
right?
I believe.
The first one was?
Right.
Give me 5 seconds.
That's...
The first Kentucky Derby was in 1875.
So,
oh my gosh!
wow.
And I actually counted 5 seconds, and that was 5 seconds. He did it. That was great. That's funny.
So that's almost 150 years ago.
Yeah.
That it took them to get
health care for the people who are contracting over.
So it would have been their 130th year.
Wow.
So that entire organization, that nonprofit, is run and staffed entirely by NPs. Nurse practitioners.
Nice.
And that's a unique in the racing industry, too, to provide a source of primary health care for licensed racetrack workers. So I'm kind of amazed that an entire nonprofit organization is for this huge event and horse racing,
I'm not.
too.
I especially around healthcare, and especially if it's around like migrant workers or people coming in on visas to work within a community. That is a total nonprofit.
Yeah, I could see that.
I just had never thought about it. You go to the race, and I've never been to one, but like you would think you would go to the event, and it's there for you. You don't think about the behind the scenes stuff a lot.
That is true, because I think I mentioned I have gone only once up to Canterbury, and you see the jockeys, and you see a few people on the sidelines that are working with the horses. But yeah, you don't think about the people mucking the stalls and who's bringing the feed and fresh hay and
right.
Who's training them, who's washing, brushing.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people are employed at the Kentucky Derby.
Oh my gosh. a lot.
I mean, we talked about how many, what did we say? It was something like 10,000.
Of the mint juleps that are.
16,000 people order a mint julep during the Kentucky Derby. Yeah. But yeah, they've got to have a huge staff.
Yeah.
Or contractors.
Right. But, and then to have that entire organization too, like staffed entirely by NPs. They're all nurses that are being staffed there.
And kudos to the university for jumping in on that. I like that.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so that was my connection to nurses, which we have quite a history of medical practitioners in Freeborn County. And Mary King is one that is a great big one who did a lot and had a lot on her plate. So I kind of thought of her as almost a maverick. That's what I kind of think of as her. She was born in Freeborn County on April 1st. She's a April Fool's Day baby in 1887, and she passed in 1980. So she lived to be 92 years old. And she attended the Navy Hospital School of Nursing, graduated in 1916, also attended University of Minnesota, but then returned to Navy Hospital. And that was when Miss Anna Kippen, she was the first superintendent there. She resigned, and so Mary King became the superintendent and also the director of the School of Nursing in 1923. So she had two really big hats on. She held that position until 1945 and was in charge of the business of the hospital, necessary in the maintenance and operation of the hospital, purchasing, personnel, professional care of patients, teaching the students, the selection of students. She served as an x-ray technician and like a lot of other jobs that she had just within the hospital. She was on call 24/7. And she did a lot.
I'm just trying to think what the equivalent position of that would be now at the hospital here in Elbert Lake, right? It'd be, I bet it's got to be a dozen or more people that take care of all of those.
And also initially she wanted to be a teacher. She went to school to be a teacher, not even in nursing or anything. And then ended up just jumping right into nursing.
It's interesting that you called her a maverick.
Yeah, because she is such an individual and persevered through a lot of, I guess, barriers, at that time for women to be in such a position of power.
It's Elbert Lee has a few of those. Freeborn County, I should say, has a few women that really jumped in and took the reins.
I was going to say it if you didn't.
So yeah, she just jumped in and did a lot of powerful jobs and a lot of time spent in the hospital, like saving lives, doing that kind of stuff. Right. But then she resigned as superintendent and then continued her education and returned again to Navy Hospital as a full-time nurse anesthesiast. And that she did until 1961 when she fully retired. And then after she retired, she worked as the assistant superintendent of St. John's Lutheran Home.
Oh.
So
I didn't know that about her. That's awesome. Huh.
Yeah, and then after she resigned that, she still was a volunteer at St. John's. And she gave much of her time and effort to St. John's Home to help that. She was called the chief nurse of this community by quite a few people.
Fitting. That's a fitting title for her.
Yes, I agree. Just let me go back to Navy Hospital really quick here, because the namesake was Dorothea Soth Navy, who was born in Germany in 1841. And I like Dorothea because that's my great-grandma's name.
Oh.
My great-grandma was Dorothea Maria Augusta. But Dorothea Soth, different person here, she was, again, born in Germany, and her parents and brother and sister came to Wisconsin in 1849. Within a year of their arrival, her parents and sister died.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So their uncle raised her and her brother Charles. So then Charles and Dorothea came to Albert Lea in 1873, where Charles and a man named Theodore Navy formed a business partnership, and they opened a general store. And then, I guess through that connection, Dorothea and Theodore got to know each other and were married in 1875. And they adopted a daughter named Edith in 1890. And 1 year later, Theodore passed away.
Oh, my
So then she
goodness.
lost her husband. And she moved to Minneapolis in 1906 so that her daughter could receive a university education. And then she died in 1908 as the result of an accident. I don't know what accident it was, but that's how it was listed for her.
And so why did they pick her to name the hospital after her?
So her wishes to have her Albert Lee home given to the city for the purpose of an improved hospital was carried out by her brother, Charles.
I do remember that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that was she had a lot of unfortunate
I was going to
deaths
say,
in
that
her
was like
family.
a series of unfortunate events.
Yes. Oh, no.
And still be willing to be a philanthropist in the
Yes,
community,
right.
and
Yeah, to
because
have that
you
be
could
her-
just kind of
Be beaten down by all the bad things that happen to you and get
Right.
all crotchety and angry at
Jaded.
everything. And,
Yeah.
jaded, crotchety. Those are
And-
good words, guys.
and they still wanted to give back and try to make the world a better place.
That's
So that was
that's another
for-
strong woman in Freeborn
Right.
County history.
And that was on my Nurses Week, National Nurses Week.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then so you, after nurses, went to...
Took me a long time to get a popcorn going off of this one, I can tell you that. But I happened to find strong women also.
Ooh.
So back in the 1870s, there was a push in Freeborn County of the Temperance Movement, which was against the consumption of alcohol.
Yep.
I'm still trying to
making a
figure the
face.
line.
Whatever
that is.
Whatever you're into.
Wait, it was interesting because I'm looking at, some old newspapers, and what comes up is all this temperance, movement information, and then the next thing over is an ad for opium and morphine.
Oh, no.
So I'm
my
thinking, this is
goodness.
really interesting. And it wasn't like just occasional ad in a newspaper. It was like when
It
I'm
was, like,
flipping through.
constantly.
Yeah, every couple months. So very
What?
interesting.
Take 2 opium and call me in the morning.
Right. Yeah, right.
Yee.
Or telegraph me in the morning.
Yeah.
Phones have been
The
invented
little
yet.
tappity taps.
My one of the favorite things I thought I really liked to this was so when they're talking about the complete abstinence from alcohol or teetotalism, I really liked that word.
The teetotalers.
And it was TEE. Teetotalism.
Yeah.
I liked that. That was a new word for me. So that one was really fun.
Bunch of teetotal squares.
So, but back in 1878, 1879, and 80, the newspapers covered what was happening with temperance. The no license movement. Since our last issue, several meetings have been held in the interest of no license. On Sunday afternoon, a large meeting was held at the Congregational Church under the auspices. Auspices?
Auspicious?
Yes.
Auspices. There's no AUSPICES. I don't know.
That's not a word.
Of the Ladies Temperance Union. So the churches were involved in this also. And another one went on to talk about the temperance store still is booming. I thank the people of Albert Lee and vicinity for their patronage during the past year and hope to merit fair share of it the coming year. As I've run my drugstore on the temperance plan, believing there were enough good temperance people to justify me in doing so. I shall continue to do so in the future. I have on hand everything usually found in a first-class drugstore and make a specialty of fine prescription work. I manufacture all of my own tinctures, wines, syrups, elixirs, fluid extracts, so you will always find them fresh and full strength. Respectfully, Dr. E.W. McCord. So wine apparently was not considered an alcoholic beverage because that was part of his temperance store.
Right.
If I can butt in for a
Please.
split second, when I had my morning show and I did history stuff, I learned a lot about the Prohibition era, and a lot of people, to get around the limits imposed by Prohibition, they would literally just take grape juice and just like let it sit, and so it would ferment, and then it would like develop, you know, its alcoholic nature, and people would just do that. And I think over the course of the 12 or 13 years that Prohibition was in effect, grape juice sales shot up like more than double, I think.
Oh, funny.
Wow.
So that's kind of the same thing, I'm going to assume, is
It was probably less, you know, they worried about it less than maybe, say, your whiskey or something.
yeah.
Well, and didn't they also get around it by saying it was just medicinal? Like they would be selling things that's just medicine.
I think that's the term. That's where the temperance store comes into play.
Right.
So, you know, the temperance stores were the ones that were advertising the opiums and the morphines and elixirs and
Right.
those types of things. There was a letter to the editor that I thought was really good. There was a time when Albert Lea was called the banner temperance town in the state.
Oh.
There was a time when people far and wide spoke of Albert Lea as the great temperance town.
Oh, man.
There was a time when temperance orators in nearly all the northern states of the Union, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, held Albert Lea up before their audiences as a model temperance town.
Wow.
There was a time when Albert Lea had the latest, largest, and most influential Good Templar Lodge in the whole state of Minnesota.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so this was something I hadn't planned on finding when I threw out temperance. I thought I can tie temperance and remedies to nursing.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, wow.
Yeah, wow. And then, well, when you said temperance, then I thought about Dean Ulland's book that is coming out fairly soon. It's We All Must Be Willing to Sacrifice. It's a World War I kind of book talking about Freeborn County, Mower County, surrounding Steele County a little bit. Yep, and about a lot of the people in there, and he really does focus on people, which I found really cool. But one of the sections talks about bonds, the Liberty bonds that people would buy in World War I, and that, like, the temperance movement in my mind was a lot of just communities deciding that that's what they were going to follow, and if people didn't follow it, it was kind of like a shame on you, you know. And that was the Liberty bonds in World War I. It was if you're not buying the percentage that you should be buying, we might just tar and feather you.
Well, it meant you weren't patriotic, right? You didn't support our local boys.
And you might be fined sometimes, too. They would bring you, like, to court and say, hey, you need to pay your due diligence here. And, yeah. But I'm not a big World War I buff. I enjoy World War I, like trivia and stuff. I think it's neat, but I'm not really...
Odd that she used the word enjoy.
I do. I like trivia.
I'm a casual enjoyer of one of the most deadly human conflicts in history.
Casual triviast. But I really did enjoy that book that he wrote. It's well written, and it's a lot of interesting points. And he does, again, he focuses on the people, and I will never stop praising his ability to show the beginning of World War I in such a clear, concise way. He tells you how it starts very, very well. So we're going to have him come to the museum.
I was going to say, he is coming on July 15th.
For a book signing, and then also a little program.
Yeah, and I guess if people haven't heard him, he's so personable. It's like you're having a conversation with him while he's presenting to you. So there's no... I don't know. He doesn't go over your head. There's no... It's just... It's a really great way to learn about World War I. He does some stuff on World War II as well. Yeah. Nice guy. Do you think he likes popcorn?
I don't know. Maybe we should try and give him some.
Here you go.